Okay guys, it is nearly 4 o'clock on Thursday evening or afternoon, and I have my first game of 11th edition this Saturday morning. I also want to make this into a video, so it has to be edited tomorrow evening. So I have from now until tomorrow at about 5 p.m. to have this entire table fully built, fully painted, and ready for games. So that's what we're going to tackle in today's video. Do you think I can do it? Basically 24 hours, but I've got a stream in between. I've got a bunch of other things I'm going to be streaming tomorrow for the reveals. So there's not really a lot of wiggle room. I have to get this right straight off the bat. I have a little bit of a game plan on how I'm going to do it. It's going to involve as little brushwork as humanly possible. And I would probably use a lot of airbrushes, but my airbrushes are both out of commission right now. One has a little valve fault and one I dropped and it absolutely exploded and I need to order a bunch of parts to repair it. So yeah, like I said, trying to avoid a lot of brushwork. So it's going to be some color forge sprays to get the basic color down, and then some pigment powders and stuff to add some weathering and damage, and then a lot of foliage because this is going to match into this green table. So I'm going to be adding lots of like weeds and moss and all that kind of cool bits and pieces. I've actually received an entire gigantic goodie bag box from Green Stuff World, who are the sponsor of today's video, in order to make these table and these buildings match the table. So it should be a lot of fun. Before I get into the video though, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone there that continues to support the channel in all the myriad ways it's possible to do so. Watching the videos, liking, dropping comments if you have questions, and making sure you're subscribed. Subscribing costs you absolutely nothing, but it makes a huge difference to how many people see these videos and how quickly the channels, plural, there's 3 channels, grow. So please do check them all out and give them a follow if you are so inclined. And for everyone out there goes the extra mile supports over on Patreon. You guys literally keep the channel going. I couldn't do it without you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. There's a whole host of reasons to be involved. We do extra videos, we do podcasts, we do community showcases and Discord servers and all that stuff. We also do monthly giveaways. You'll notice there's 2 Armageddon box sets in front of me. This one is empty. This is mine. It's already built and I'm currently painting it. This one is still fully sealed and it is the giveaway for this month. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning an Armageddon box set, all you need to do is be signed up to the Patreon at any tier. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's dive in and actually start work on these pieces. So first things first, you may be wondering where I got these awesome bases from. Well, I 3D printed them myself, but the creator of these, found him on the Bamboo Labs thingy. This is his Instagram profile. If it would focus on that, that would be amazing. There you go. This is him on Instagram. I think he's just started his Instagram account. He has no post showing off his stuff yet. He's only got 64 followers. This is his name. I thoroughly recommend you go check him out, give him a follow, and then obviously follow that name over on the Bamboo Labs library and you will find these things as well. I will leave them linked down below as well so you can see them. He has done a full set, all the shapes and designs that you need to do your boards, and they are actually fully designed to match in with the 40K scenery. So it blends in perfectly. So I found these and they're incredible. I printed off a full set of them. I printed off way too many because there was different designs I wanted to try out. These are the ones that I've finished on, the ones that I'm really happy with. Yeah, I've also obviously built all of these pieces of scenery that I own. And now I'm going to kind of go around and match in with what ones are going to fit where and what pieces and see if I'm going to need all of this or whether I can leave some of it to the side and use it for other projects or whatever. And then my plan after that is to make it like an old abandoned destroyed city, which is obviously the scenery does match that idea. And I think the way to do that is like, because there's like big Mechanicum cogs and stuff on it, I'm going to go with a kind of an old Mechanicum settlement. So I've grabbed some sprays from Color Forge. I grabbed white bone and I've grabbed sanguine red sprays. And the idea is that the interior of the buildings are going to be that bone white color like you've seen on a million other projects before. Games Workshop's a big fan of the interior of buildings being that like bone white. And then the exterior of the buildings are going to be red. So I'm literally going to get the bone spray, spray the platforms white, and then I'm going to spray the inside of the buildings with the bone, sorry, wrong can, the white bone. So it's going to be a nice kind of creamy bone color for those 2 sections. And then on the outside, it's going to be red. Now, I would just glue these into place. I did ask in a previous video if I should glue them on. Everyone unanimously said no, but I'm going to ignore that because I like scenery being one solid piece. So once I've got this spray job out of the way, that's when I'm going to glue all of the scenery on. lock it in place forever. And then I can add all the texture paste for the basing, and then obviously weathering powder and all bits and pieces like that. So that is going to be my first task, is to basically line up all this scenery with the correct platform to see what it looks like. And then after I figure that out, then I can basically get all those bits sprayed up. So step one, start lining pieces up. Okay, so this is what I've decided. A lot of the buildings, obviously the smaller pieces, are just going to be kind of standard few walls, nothing crazy. Don't have to worry about those too much. Some of the larger sections, like these, I like adding as much walls as possible for as much kind of structure. So even though this piece here is actually, it actually overlaps and it's kind of cutting that bit off. So this section here, I will literally just grab a clippers and remove that section. Like, it's supposed to be an old wrecked city. So now if I just remove this section here, now I can put these two pieces together. Like that. Doesn't matter if there's cracks, doesn't matter if there's little gaps. It will just add more. I like there being as much kind of walls as possible to create a bit more structure. And I'm going to be doing exactly the same with here. A lot of people just leave it like this, but I love adding these two extra sections in, and then it suddenly becomes this much kind of bigger footprint. And then obviously when you split it apart, it's a much nicer kind of corner building with the extra wall section and stuff. So I'm just going to go away and do the cuts that I need to make those bits fit. First off, sorry for the sound around here. There's a bit of construction going on around where I live, so you're going to hear weird noises and stuff. Obviously, I don't usually record out here. This is the back corner of my garden, but I've got a lot of spraying to be doing. I didn't have anywhere else suitable to do it, so we are going to get some spraying done. First thing I have, I'm just going to tilt this very badly, but I have all of the base plates for the scenery out and separate. So quickly going to go for the rake bone. Immediately lose the cap, which is not ideal. Get some test sprays going. And then the idea is to spray all the platforms like that. That's it. Doesn't matter what size they are, how big they are. I also next to an airport, so that noise is the plane taking off. Simple as. Doesn't matter if we don't hit the surrounding areas. We're just aiming for basically the pad. We're going to be doing texture paste on the other bits anyway. So just going to continue that process around all the bases now. Okay, that's all of the baseboards done and ready to rock and roll. Now I'm just going to start doing the buildings. It's obviously such a big part of this. So normally I would just say, hey, I sprayed this color and that color while I was in the studio, but because it's so much of the process is the spraying, I thought I would actually show you how I'm doing it. So reach into my boxo scenery and take out one of the pieces. So like I said, I'm doing the inside of the buildings. In bone. Solid bone. The outside is still gray plastic. Then I'll switch over to my red. I'm sure that's really pleasant on the lapel mic right here, the rattling of a can. And then we just flip the piece over. I know the inside is still wet, so I really shouldn't be touching this, but and then we're just going to spray the outside red. And because we're being careful with our angles, you see I'm just spraying this way. I'm not doing this because then it's going to hit the walkway. Obviously there's windows, so there might be a little bit of overspray, but that's okay. So that will give us a red outside and a cream inside building. Like I said, they're all going to be kind of shaded down and muddied up and all that kind of crap, but that's the basic idea. So I'm going to go away and do this to all the other buildings now. Okay, the next thing to do is add some texture paste all around those kind of platform areas. The digital designer did do a great job of adding texture to the bases. But I just want to add the texture paste because I do it to kind of most of my scenery, so it'll blend in with the rest of my sets. And I think obviously a little bit more predominant. And obviously we won't have to paint it black and stuff after, or brown after that as well. It'll just act as the nice kind of ground texture stuff. It also lets you control certain areas. Obviously there's big giant cracks in these pads here, so you can just fill that in with the texture paste and make it, once again, look even older and more ruined and more decrepit. And it just looks really, really cool. Once those texture pastes have fully dried, that's when it's time to move on to the green stuff world paint. So we're going to go for flaming orange and then a bone color after that. And that's just to dry brush up the brown soil. It's okay if you overshoot, you hit some of those pads a little bit. That'll just make it blend into the scenery even more and look awesome. So yeah, just a large brush, some orange flaming orange paint, and then just dry brush all of the soil that color. After that, I grabbed Green Stuff World's Sun Bleached Bone color, and then I dry brushed over that surface once again. And as you can see, that orange has really added a nice richness to the bases, and the bone is obviously going to tone it down a little bit and just help it blend in again. So this is a really nice texture for your scenery bases to be. Now we're going to be adding foliage and some flock and some static grass and stuff to these later on as well. So you don't have to be super careful or super worried or anything like that. If you make a little bit of a mistake, if you overbrush a little bit here or underbrush a little bit there, you can hide all those mistakes later on. Don't panic. When those bits were done, I thought it was time to super glue all of the scenery pieces to the actual bases themselves. And all I did was grab a heavy gel super glue and stick them all down. These pads are obviously designed for these particular pieces of scenery, so they line up perfectly. They're basically designed to do it. So I just took some time and I designed them all out and I super glued them all down until I was really happy with the final result. And I felt like I kind of had a city's worth of terrain ready to go then. Okay, this is the board as it currently stands. All of the kind of bases have got paint on them, as much paint and texture paste is going to go on them. It's now time to kind of move on to weathering powder. So this is like what a building looks like. It's what it currently looks like. So the base of it looks really nice. It's got some ground coverage. The buildings are red on the outside and a cream color on the inside. They're all stuck together. It's one solid piece now that is a piece of scenery. This is all the scenery that is required for an 11th edition game of Warhammer 40,000. Even the cool Mechanicum pipework pieces are, not that it'll focus on that, are all ready to rock and roll and looking nice and sorted. These were a bit of a disaster because obviously had the wrong pipes and stuff glued on. I'm sure I talked about it already in the video. So having to rebuild those this morning and get them all sprayed up obviously wasted a bit of time. So it's now onto a bit of a panic session. The next step to do is to add all of the weathering powder to basically the whole bloody board. I plan on painting the rest of the board with just weathering powders, which may be an insane concept, but I have this idea in my head that it's going to look really cool and it's going to work, but it's going to be super messy, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about doing it. I think the best thing to do is to weathering powder a building, and while it's in my hand, walk outside and spray it varnish and then bring back in. Then grab the next building, weathering powder, walk outside, spray varnish. I'm obviously going to have to change my clothes and I'm going to have to get gloves on. I have to put a mat down so I don't ruin my mat. Because weathering powder, although I love the result, is the worst thing to work with in the hobby. It is so messy. It is literally pure pigment. So if it gets on your clothes, done. Gets on your mat, done. It gets everywhere no matter what. So I have to be super careful with it. But hopefully I can show you how it works and what it looks like, and you can see the uses of it for scenery moving forward. So I'm going to go away and get a little setup ready for that, get some gloves on, maybe get my Minotaur varnish ready outside, and then yeah, just start kind of hammering away at these pieces. Here is, of course, my least favorite step, which is using the weathering pigment, because weathering pigment is the most messy hobby thing that you could possibly use. It doesn't matter how clean your surface is, how ready you are, gloves, doesn't matter. It's going to get everywhere. It's going to be an absolute nightmare, but it makes all the difference. And this is what I was talking about earlier about kind of skipping adding loads of paint to the model. The spray plus some weathering pigment plus a varnish, and I'm going to be really happy with how the buildings look. Like I said, these are supposed to be old and forgotten. These ruins could be thousands of years old for all you know. Designed to last, but not last that long. And that will give us that beautiful idea of a ruined city. So obviously we grabbed the Green Stuff World pigment powders. We basically grabbed a black one for kind of door frames and pipe work and stuff like that, and then a kind of a warm ready brown one for all the corners, as if the soil has built up, or around the edges of the pads and stuff like that.
With the pipes, the same pigments got applied, the black and the warm brown for kind of the bottom. And then I did try and add some rust color in, but the varnish just made that disappear. So yeah, the pipes are the only bit that I think I'll have to go back and do some more work to later on.
Okay, I literally had to go and shower and change my clothes after that pigment because I looked like a chimney sweep after it. It was absolutely ridiculous. But the entire table has now had all of the pigments applied and all of those buildings have been varnished. Now it's time to go on and actually apply all of the kind of foliage. Like I said, I want this table to match in with a green gaming mat. Most kind of Imperial or 40k tables are all grim and dark. They're all based on, you know, ruined like gray tables or that kind of thing. So I wanted to be more natural. I want to add lots of green and lots of foliage in. And that's where Green Stuff World really came in handy with the care package they sent me, which was just basic materials galore. So I'm going to use a lot of their kind of shrubs and like little bushes and tufts and their clump foliage and stuff to make these buildings really blend into this table. So that's what I'm going to do now.
And this is what they look like after the pigment powder has been applied and they've been varnished. And I think, you know, after just no paint has been applied, just some spray paint, these bits look absolutely incredible. Now, like I said, I didn't want that kind of dull, boring looking 40k tables that traditionally are. So first things first, I grab a little bit of silver and I dry brush them all over the scenery. This will make kind of rivets and bolts and some of the window frames stand out a little bit more, a little bit scratched and old scenery. And then from here, we're going to move on and add an absolute metric crap ton of foliage. Green Stuff World very kindly sent me out that huge care package of bits and pieces. So I'm going to put that to good use, adding in shrubs and tufts and grasses. Lots of clump foliage that they sell as well. Usually you're supposed to put those things on their like tree armatures, but I'm going to use them for adding like vines and clumps of bushes to up the walls and around the edges and stuff. And it should look really, really cool. The shrubs are one of my favorite things that, like I said, I asked Green Stuff World to send me out some of those. And I've been using them on everything ever since. Every fantasy model, every Lord of the Rings model, and now incorporating them as much as possible in the 40k because I just think it really elevates basing to the next level. So here's the amount of like shrubs and bushes and stuff I'm adding to the buildings. As you can see, it's quite a lot, but I think it looks really, really cool. And then going back to the traditional, a little bit of PVA glue, and then sprinkling some static grass along the edges. So this will once again help these scenery pieces blend in with the table as a whole and look really, really nice.
And this is the finished result. I've added in a bunch of my extra trees just to kind of, I don't know, make it real blend in, the old overgrown outpost or city. You can see how the buildings turned out. These are all solid pieces, like I said. So here's one of the buildings. See, I've added like the moss and stuff growing up the walls, some flock, some little bushes and flowers and stuff. Even some of the smaller sections, as you can see, it's all ready for war. All in all, really, really pleased with how this board turned out, especially since how we did it in less than 24 hours. From not a single scrap of paint on the model or the models even being assembled to a fully done and ready gaming table. It's obviously, like I said, full legal size, all the right shaped buildings, all the right bases. Yeah, so this is it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. You learned a little something about getting scenery done very, very quickly. Might be good for tournament organizers or event people like that. Just, yeah, a few sprays, a few weathering pigments, some varnish, and then lots of foliage, and you can have yourself a really nice, accessible table in no time at all. Okay, I need to get ready my army now because the game is tomorrow, so wish me luck.